here on the desk and recording. Yes, yo, welcome back. But you know how we do. Let's set the mood. That right there is the new song from Night Freak featuring MOLE and Coco. That is Savior. And you guys know we usually start the show, but because other people don't value, like there's a co-host of mine who doesn't care. My man got his passport dinned out one time and I was like, no, screw this podcast, I'm done. But you know what, it's fine. You know, we looked into the Rolodex. We looked into the black book and we found someone even more capable than him, someone even more accomplished. If you're looking at the title of the episode, you already know who's here. But you know what? Let's not jump the gun. Let's do the formal intro. So I don't know if you're very familiar with this plot. Let me know. But let me run through the rigmarole of the beginning of our podcast. First and foremost, are you
good to go?
Yes, I'm good to go.
You sure? Yeah.
That's
Good
it.
to go.
All right, let's go.
Let me hear a drum play.
Hey, watch them. Season settle. The listeners of the 2BT podcast coming to your ear metal. We're back again. It's your boy Phil Chat, aka Flip Floss, the Big Boss, aka Pizza P, aka Sexy the Lovu, aka Phil on Musk, aka Filthy Phil, aka DJ Mkaradi, and of course, Shamwari. Nditengere with Rinky. We're back in with another episode of Two Broke Twimbos. Dan is AWOL. And maybe he might not come back. You know, after this episode, we might not need him back. We'll find out. We got a special guest in the building today. Thank you so much for joining us on short notice. First and foremost, who are you and where are you from?
I'm Plot Mhako and I'm from Zim.
What's up, Plot? Where in the world are you right now, bro?
I'm currently in Germany.
Aha! Did my foreign detractor. All right, cool. What's the weather like over there, bro? It's winter now, huh?
The weather is very cold. It's been cold, but it's slowly getting warm. I think over the past few days, we start to see a bit of the sun. So it's the extreme opposite of what's like in Harare.
All right. No, European weather never agreed with me, bro. I hate Shena too much to live over there, bro. Because you get ash.
You had the weather, like you had the cold.
Dude, me and the cold do not get along. I can't do it. Anyway, that's not why people are here.
I have no choice, but I'm slowly getting used to it.
All right, all good. In fact, before we get into the nitty-gritties, Plot, why don't you give us a brief rundown for some of the listeners? There might be one or two of them who might not have come across your name, but I'm sure a lot of people who follow the African, the Zim music scene are very familiar with your work. But just give us a brief outline of who Plot Mhako is and what he's about.
So Plot Mhako is a cultural and a creative curator who's also working as a media practitioner. For the past 17 years, my work is involved around the creative arts, the media, and youth culture. So I founded Jibilika in 2007. So this is our 17th anniversary. And through Jibilika, then gave birth to quite a lot of other initiatives, you know, the Zim Hip Hop Summit, Zim Dancer Summit, Step Up to HIV program, Skate Zimbabwe, Queenda Productions, which I'm a co-director, as well as Mafu International Festival of Dance, which I'm also a co-director, and Amplifier Festival, Earground Media, which is like the most recent baby 5-year-old And yeah, so pretty much my work is the youth culture. And the youth and the arts. I'm a 2-time US alumni fellow. Actually 4 times rather. Yeah, I was actually skipping the other 2. Yeah, Yali, IVOP, ISPA twice, and I've been working and living in Germany for the past 9 years, but keeping my ear on the ground.
I see ear ground. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
All right, man. You know, a very accomplished person, a very knowledgeable individual. I think.
Thanks a lot.
I don't know, Plot. What do you want to? Do you want to start with general chit chat, or do you want to get into the burning issues? Because when we got to this call, you're like, I don't feel like I got something that's weighing on me right now, bruh.
Chit chat and general issues, maybe a mix of the two.
All right, let's not get too heavy. So I think in general, let's discuss like your journey. I think there's a lot of crossover in some of the work that we've been doing, but in your estimation, like as it stands now, where do you see the current state of Zimbabwean entertainment?
Well, I think we are at a point where we are discovering. We are in another like sort of self-discovery kind of moment, where there's a new emergence of amazing new voices, new artists, new creators. If you look what's happening with fashion, with the Fabric Party and the whole, Fashion Week, and if you look at theater, Zimbabwe Theatre Academy, and if you look at music, we used to have 2, 3, 4 recording studios, but now we have more. Yes, we still don't have recording labels as such, but we have more players in the industry. There are now more radio stations and more TV stations. We just about 8 years ago, 10 years ago, we had possibly not more than 4 radio stations, and now we have at least 17 main radio stations and then campus radio stations, so more than 20. And we have TV stations, about 5 of them. But we still find ourselves wanting because there is a disconnect. Many platforms, still limited voices that are getting access to like the mainstream. So I think there is a conversation, there is a growth, there is so much that's happening within the creative space. People are starting to talk. I don't think the Leonard Dembos and Chibaduras had a moment to actually converse about issues to do with intellectual property, copyrights, royalties and stuff. But now we start to see creatives talking about such things. So I think we are in a space where creatives are starting to wake up. Not all at once, but there's sort of an awakening that's happening and the drive to get global.
So here's a question. I think it's more theoretical than anything, but when I look at the stats in Zim, especially like with the proliferation of radio and TV stations, I think radio is a little easy because it's impervious to or more resistant to some of the issues we have vis-a-vis connectivity and power. But how many people like total addressable market do you think are actually tuning into these new stations? And do these stations have a business model that makes sense?
I think the numbers, it's quite difficult to actually come up with numbers because we see with ZAMPs and other surveys, they come up with numbers which they can't completely validate. So the TV stations right now, they cannot actually come up with figures, how many people are watching them, and if anybody's actually watching them. And yeah, I bet a lot of the other TV stations have no viewers or very, very small amount of, viewership because of how they're structured, because of the content, because of where they are broadcasting, DSTV and so forth, where you've got 200 other options to watch better TV content, and now people are exposed to online content. And with radio stations, we have more stations, but the narrative has really remained very narrow. The standard of broadcasting has really gone down. The quality of journalism and content creation on radio is gone low. That's why you find very few voices that are broken through radio. Very few artists. At most, it's what's trending at one radio station is what's trending at other radio stations. You find variations in very, very few stations where you'd say, okay, Classics 263, and you'd say maybe Radio Zimbabwe, National FM, but the other radio stations are all trying to replicate social media at most. They've become talk shows. So much talk about Mjolo, our talk and stuff. And that has really, really brought the standard to a mediocre level where anything goes on radio, even vulgar goes on radio. Censorship no longer applies to X-rated music and stuff. So there's the depth of the conversation is starting to get more and more shallow. With exceptions, there are stations that are really doing amazing. You can listen to them and the content is educative, informative, and empowering, but also entertaining. And you get stuff that will be like, oh, this is fresh. But the reproduction of social media is becoming a cancer for our radio stations and our media in Zimbabwe.
So can you name these stations? Name and shame, Plot. Tell us, who is this?
Like the stations where you get...
well, let's start with the positive. You mentioned there's some stations that are doing some great work. Which radio stations would you say are doing some of the great work you mentioned?
Poly FM. This is a radio station run by students at Polytechnic. If you listen to their selection of music, the kind of research that they're doing, maybe because they're students, they're hungry, they are pushing more. I really like it. A station like, I like ZFM, though at times I get too much of, the international content from there. So I'll be craving and looking for Zim content. But you find some level of excellence in terms of how the conversations are held. There's a lot of effort. And then a station like Skies Metro, Mtare, Diamond FM, they really put in a bit of work, a lot of research and so forth. And some of these small community radio stations, they're also making effort, but they are not having a big listenership. But the other culprits, yeah.
Oh, you don't want to name them?
Yeah, I could name them. I've called them out like in public. I've said it. For example, Star FM. Star FM is really had its standards going down, and the reason why I'm saying this, because if you listen to the dancehall show and the quality of dancehall artists that are coming through every week, and they're being hyped and they're singing crap, they're singing substandard, it's demo tapes, and very, very poor content. If you listen to the talk shows that they're having from morning to evening, they are talking endlessly. Yes, they would say, we know where there is a talk radio, but the conversation is some pastor who's coming through, some motivational speaker, it's some Jolo guy, it's some trivia conversation and stuff. It's simply what has happened on Zim Celebs now finds its way as it is. I know, not taking anything away from Zim Celebs or somewhere, but it finds its way straight to radio. With Power FM, they are doing well, but they're still stuck in the urban grooves era. In terms of how they're doing things, they may need to up the game a bit and improve on certain things, but they have an authentic feel still, in the 2002, 2003 era. And then if you look at a radio station like the Kulumani, they're doing well, but you get a feel of, okay, it's Radio Zimbabwe combined with National FM, and the National FM as well, but they're failing to really evolve. Radio Zimbabwe has, I think, upheld the standard. What it stands for, the quality of the broadcasting, the presenters, the research, its connection to people. It's the most listened to radio station in the country, and they have remained true to their standard.
Okay. I'm taking in what you've said, and I think it's not necessarily a counterpoint, but I think also the observation I'm seeing here is I think the effects of obviously economic incentives, but particularly economic incentives in this environment that we're in. So, like you mentioned, Poly FM, which is essentially a student-run community station, they don't have any economic incentives because it's supposed to be an onboarding and training platform for our next broadcasters, right? Skies
Yes.
Metro and Diamond FM, those are smaller regional. They're essentially commercial community stations, but they're subsidized by their parent companies. In this case, well, Skies Metro would be independent, but Diamond FM would be via Zim Papers, which is ironic because Zim Papers, the crown jewel being Star FM, I think it's also simply because of the fact that you've got to balance income and expenditure. As someone who's also on the marketing side of it, commercial radio stations live and die on marketing revenue. The budgets that are being spent on marketing, if I were to compare them pre-COVID and post-COVID, like now, not even accounting for what's happening with the economy and everything else, it's night and day. So I can sometimes sympathize with these stations, and also why I'm asking if their business models make sense. Because if your advertisers are coming to you, and let me not mention names, but I know some big brands, stock brands listed on the stock market for an above the line campaign or mass media campaign, they might have $50,000, right? And they might run that 50. Let's just say that they run that $50,000 for a quarter. If I'm Star FM, when I start looking at rentals, when I start looking at equipment, wear and tear, getting new equipment so that I stay up to date, salaries, overheads, broadcasting rights, licensing fees to Simura, etc. It's a drop in the bucket. And how many big fish are you able to capture in a quarter? And I think that's another issue that Zimbabweans are struggling, not just in Zimbabwe, but I think globally, but more so here because the margins are so fine. If you look at what's happening in America, iHeartMedia, biggest radio conglomerate in the world. I think last I checked, they were $1 billion in debt. I'll actually just confirm now. And they're investing heavily into satellite radio, into podcasting, but it's pretty much the same thing. And syndication. So you now have like the Breakfast Club. I think the Breakfast Club is in 40 markets across America, which means all the local radio hosts who are doing that slot all lost their jobs. So it's great for Charlemagne and DJ Envy because they get a bigger audience, but it's terrible for the community stations in those areas. And I think we're dealing with the same effects of it here. So I can definitely understand, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, like the quality of content and relevance. I struggle to remember, maybe you can remind me, like the last big music-related radio event was. Not like a sensational interview or whatever, but I'm just talking like, guys, last night, so-and-so was on Peter John's show. I got to see a freestyle. Shaman, I taped it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you remember the last time that happened? Because I'm struggling to remember the last time that happened.
Oh, it's been a long time because back then we didn't even know the faces of the DJs, right? Mm-hmm. So radio DJs were there. They built brands from their voices, from their content. And there was no social media. Now they are competing for influencer positions. Maybe it's because of the survival, like you're saying. They also want to become MCs for events. They want to be seen. They want to create a brand endorsement and stuff. But to really have a show that you'd say this sticks, I would wait to listen to this show. The last time I think it happened was when Zim Danso blew up. No. I think my last experience for radio was DJ SK and Sokostina, the Love Lounge. And then after the Love Lounge, I think it was the So Avenue with So Profound, right? Shows that I would religiously listen to. And then I used to listen to, the Z Judgment Yard, the Zim Danso show. And along the way, it got diluted. So now, because we've got internet, I think the struggle for our radios is to try and create a balance to say, okay, now this is what's available in the public domain on internet. What is it that we could find that could engage and empower people or even interest people and advertisers that is not on the internet? And I think we have a million of these stories. We have a million of artists that could possibly give more value to radio. Where you listen to radio, you know, if you love jazz, you have to go to this radio station. If you love this kind of music, if you love this kind of conversation, you go on this. And I think because we can't even remember how long it was, it speaks to how much of a disconnect that is growing between radio content and listenership, but also taking cognizant the disruption that has been brought in by internet. Now we've got options. We can watch and listen to radio on demand. We can go on podcasts, and listen to radio based on what we're interested in, And for a nation like Zimbabwe, where it still has a low usage of digital penetration, not everyone has got access to internet. A very small fraction still has. I think radio still has an opportunity to be able to reach out to people and connect with millions in a way that would bring good revenue.
I agree, and in some instances I disagree. I think radio, especially like a Radio Zimbabwe or a Classic 263, I think those audiences have, or those stations have solid audience bases. How much disposable income do they have? And I may even be arguing against myself because last year I did a lot of mass marketing campaigns, and there's a great amount of money in the mass market. There's a great amount of money in entry-level products. But because of everything else that's happening in Zim, I'm not sure if the marketers and the radio stations and the people at the stations know how to convert that to sustain everything, because everyone is just trying to produce content at the minimum viable product. They're trying to make it as cheap as possible, as quick as possible. So discuss the social media topics, because that means your producer is not spending a day rehearsing topics. He's doing it in a couple of hours. That means that producer's probably producing for multiple shows. Your stars aren't having to come in early to prepare, because they just literally just sit down, read off the call sheet and go. So I definitely agree. I don't know if the solution is viable, like if there's an actual tangible solution, because at the end of the day, there's so many headwinds.
I think there is a solution that could work, that can be more hybrid. So, for example, if you look at how Ola 7 developed his podcast from radio, it became one of the most listened to platforms on radio, right? Mm-hmm. It was a combination of social media and radio, right? And we could actually see the numbers, we could quantify, right? And I think it was more to do with the kind of conversations that we was creating and the interest that people had. And a show like The Platform on ZFM, right? Anyone who wants serious conversations, politics, business, they go on the platform, they listen to it religiously. And you knew at some point, if you needed to experience unheard voices, you needed to check out Backstage on ZFM, for example, right? And now, where I'm saying there is a big challenge in terms of the marketing that approaches that radio stations are using. They're still using the roadshow kind of approaches that were being used 10, 15 years ago, and things have changed. And in terms of curation and programming, there is not so much thought and research. Listen to the interviews. If you sit down and listen to an interview being done on Apple, on BBC One Extra, or any other channels of the same artist, your Davido, and the kind of questions that they would ask, the kind of research that the presenter does before they ask, you'd find it's more well thought, it's engaging, it's entertaining. You can listen to a Davido interview and actually enjoy it. But listen to an average interview in Zimbabwe, which as an artist it leans towards something sensational. It leans towards, an artist can go on radio and when they leave, their image is battered, right? There isn't much of value that is created. And so people know we get our value from this platform. So we'll put our value there. And even the advertisers, the marketers, they see where they get value. They say, look, can we put our money there on this platform or not? Should we put on this platform? Should we put on this program? We have seen what Podcast and Chill has done, right? And we've seen also programs, on 702, on Metro FM. There are specific programs that we know that are doing so well, right? That have got high ads. But in Zim, I think we've got a straight jacket approach in terms of our content development and in terms of right now, for example, hip hop has been on a big, massive growth in Zim over the past year or two. And still hip hop is still finding a niche space like on radio stations, right? There's still limited space for hip hop. But Zim Dancehall, which has over the past 5 years gone down, still has 3 hours, 6 hour, 12-hour shows running prime time throughout the week. Right? So it's that ability to say, look, what's happening in terms of the creative and entertainment industry that we could tap into in terms of approaches, in terms of styles. Look at even social media, how posts are being created, right? If you read through social media posts for a radio station in Zimbabwe, you get a feeling that there's some other random blogger who's just blogging from the street, or there's very few stuff. You can actually see the same story, it's written in the same way, same format, right? There isn't really much of an effort to say, look, you know what? We're going to be distinct in terms of our branding. We're going to be distinct in terms of how we're packaging, what we say, how we say things, and so forth. That if people know that if they go on our particular station page, they will see this kind of compass. They will see this kind of content. If you go on our Twitter or whatever, our level of engagement is up to this level, and people know that if you go here, you get legit stuff.
All right. There's a lot to respond there. I think like while you're talking, the first thing I did was actually I looked up DJ Ola's page, and I think it bleeds into my other thing. I think we're in agreement with regards to the state of media and commentary and music, but I think where I may see things differently, and let me know if I'm wrong, is with regards to the economics of it, or how these things can become economically viable. I do have the advantage or the disadvantage, depending how you look at it, of knowing or seeing what ad revenues look like in South Africa versus ad revenues in Zimbabwe. And because of a multitude of reasons, those are night and day. So like even with Ola, if I'm looking at the CPMs, if Ola is monetizing his page, and let's say he's doing a pre-roll, post-roll, and maybe 2 mid-rolls on his long-form ads. For Zim, we're probably looking at a cost per milli of about five. Let's be generous and let's just say like, let's just go $5. So he's done 7 million views. 7 million divided by 1,000 is 7,000. 7 by 5. If he was doing everything, right, monetizing from day one, killing the game, running post, pre-roll, mid-roll ads, he's looking at around 35,000 a year just in YouTube revenue. Now, if we break that down, 35,000 divided by 12, that's 3,000 a month. His gross. But he's got a cameraman, he's got a switcher or technician, he's got an editor, he's got a studio, he's got microphones, he's got a sound disc, he's got lighting, he's got to pay Zesa, he's got to travel to and from the studio, he's got to get wardrobe, he's got to get fuel. Even the best of our best, like the numbers just aren't there. And I think we've got this. When Zimbabwe is in a weird place for two things. One is 12 million people, maybe in the despair of 15 to 17 million people. We're a small population. One.
True.
Two is Shona has a small addressable audience.
Yes, true.
Ndebele has an advantage because it can tap into the Zulu-speaking market.
Yes,
but then you
true.
still have to overcome xenophobia. So, like, when you deal with, like, when you mentioned podcasting show, for example, Mac G, even though I don't agree with this podcasting style, Mac G is tapping into an audience of around 20 million people. I'm already, because population of South Africa is 60, I'm already discounting for people that aren't his age, aren't his demographic. So, like, his total is 20 million. Their spending power is 10 times that of Zimbabweans already. So, and because of their systems being in place, etc., it's easier for them to get access to revenue. I remember popping into one of the episodes and, like, just the amount of brands on that table alone dwarfs anything that we'd have in this country. So there's opportunities to monetize there. He's got opportunities to monetize the YouTube creator platform. He's got opportunities to monetize through the TikTok creator platform. He's got opportunities to monetize because he's dealing directly with the brands, as opposed to Zimbabwe. We are dealing with in-country brand officers who don't necessarily have authorization for all these forms. Multiple times, and that's an annoying thing that artists always have to deal with when they start doing brand deals, is you might get a multinational and they'll take you to the marketing manager Zimbabwe. And then you'll find out that the marketing manager Zimbabwe doesn't have the authority to authorize this decision. Digital or music or whatever, brand rights or brand deals are negotiated by the regional head office, which is most likely in South Africa. And that creates another set of issues. So, like, the first thing is I still go back to, I don't know and I don't see how it's scalable. You're also speaking about journalism. If we, especially, let's simplify it and say hip hop journalism. So, who would you say are your top 5 Zim hip hop journalists all time?
Wow, top 5 Zim hip hop journalists of all time. I would put Naboth Rizla. I would have you.
Hey, number 2. Wait, is this in order?
No, not in order. No. Not in order. I would put. There's a youngster called Takudzwa. You know, he's fresh, but he's been writing dope stuff.
Who does he write for?
You saying?
Who does he write for?
Zimsphere, and he's also written for Egon before, but he's written for Zimsphere. He's from Rusape. He's amazing, well thought, like brilliant. Like you read his stuff, well thought out stuff. And then we have for hip hop. Wow, it's
So we're only on 3, huh? We're only on 3. You haven't even got to 5.
Yeah, I won't ever go through. It's difficult because some of them are just commenting, you know. But I would say, for me, you and Naboth Rizla are people that I know who have consistently written and contributed towards the hip hop narrative in terms of writing, because your writings are not only limited to the local community. You know, I find your writings in other publications, you know, and the same is with Naboth Rizla. You know, you find his writings, you know, in the Hype magazine, in other publications and stuff. But the other writers, you can't take their stories elsewhere and say, okay, this is actually something to look at, and you feel like, okay, it's okay. There's Ninja Rizzi. Yeah, he's also a dope writer. Ronald Magweta. Yeah, he has done some good pieces on hip hop. He does the Zimtainment, I think, as well. And who else? Yeah, no, not so many. And there were guys that did the Platform magazine some years ago, almost similar to the Source and stuff, but it just happened a bit and then stopped. So I think we have not so many journalists that are focused on either genres or art forms that really go in profoundly in such a way that you'd say, wow, this is compelling read. This is something that I would read, learn, and find well thought and well researched. It's all stuff that we already know or recycled or that has been shared on Facebook, and I've stopped reading the newspaper, for the longest of time because of that.
And I think with that is exactly the point I'm trying to drive home. So with all the names you mentioned, Naboth had another job that was financing his writing. He was also subsidizing it with what he was doing with hip hop ciphers, his clothing line, and the satellite radio gig he had. Me, same thing. Never really made money off hip hop. I was doing it for the passion. I was paying for that. Reezy, same thing. He was working. Well, I guess he's left there now, so it's fine. He was working at Newsday, Alpha Media. That was his day job. So he was somewhat incentivized to cover it because he was already in that field. And then it was just a short hop, skip, and a jump. The stuff that doesn't get approved for the publication at his day job would then go on to his entertainment. And I think that's the problem. Is like, it's an ecosystem cannot function when members of that ecosystem cannot sustain themselves. It's not feasible. And especially in hip hop, it goes. I remember way back when I wrote about this, and I even got into it with it was MC Porter, and then I think I'm forgetting the other guy. There were two other guys that were commenting on Zim on music at the time.
Yeah, MC Porter did well also.
And my whole thing to them was, we can't continue to keep belittling the Zim hip hop space, even back then, because I was like, guys, I've been to a studio session, or I've seen what's going on in Harare, and I see what's going on in Johannesburg at the time. We're worlds apart. We need to stop comparing ourselves to South Africa. The budgets, the resources, the access, the networks these people have compared to what you have in Zim, night and day. When you go into meetings, or when you go to these brands, or you go to these radio stations, or these TV stations, or the DSPs, or any of these platforms, or labels, whatever that may be, they'll tell you straight up, we don't consider Zimbabwe a market. As a marketer myself, when I get spreadsheets from clients or partners who are dealing in Southern Africa, Zimbabwe is considered a province of South Africa or a province of Zambia. We're not considered our own country because we're that small of a market. And because of all these things, like, it's not sustainable. Zim hip hop, I don't think, in as much as some of the things he does irk me, I don't think Zim hip hop would be where it is today if it wasn't for Begotten Son. But all the stuff that Begotten Son did, that phase from 2010 to like 2015, that was all subsidized by B-Son. All the songs that were recorded at Olympus, I don't think he's seen, I don't know if he's seen a cent from those songs. I genuinely don't know. But what I do know is that man would open up his home, his studio, his equipment every day for nothing in return. If you look at the flip side, when was the last time you saw Xander?
Wow, it's been a long time.
And that's not a shot to Xander. That's not a shot at all. It's just to drive home the point that, Xander had a run. Like, there was a time Xander, MMT, that whole crew had a run. But let's look at it now. Like, what do they have to show for it? And
that's very true. I mean, just to jump in there, I mean, I think I need to find a way to document this and tell about my story, say, with Earground, and why I did Jibilika for all these years. I didn't make money out of it. Dancers came through, beatboxers and artists came through Jibilika, gave platform to so many artists that became established and stuff. But I never made money. I was actually poor with the Jibilika. But with Earground and what I'm experiencing now, I had to quit my 9-to-5 here in Germany to just focus on Earground, right? Mm-hmm. So it has become my main source of income. Like, I literally come back to Zim because of Earground and stuff. And what I've experienced and discovered in the journey, it's you need to create authenticity in terms of the story. Like, I'm very opinionated. So in my personal space, I talk a lot and stuff. But I had to make sure that, look, the story, say, for Earground is creative, cultural, and entertainment purely. You don't find much other stuff, but it's mainly that. And it's not focusing on what's just trending, because you want numbers and stuff, right? So from now, what I did is that I managed to leverage on the kind of content that I went to create without money. Getting on a combi, driving around Zimbabwe, recording podcasts with people at the combi station and whatnot. Getting into spaces where people don't get a chance to actually speak to the media, right? Realizing that there's a diaspora community. Let me start speaking to them, tracking down yesterday legends and so forth. Let me write down stories. Like, I wrote more than 800 articles on the Earground website, where the website has never paid us a cent. But I started thinking, where exactly can the money be? And I think that's where a lot of the media platforms need also to start thinking through. It's not everything that they will do that will bring money. So you've got maybe, I think for Earground, it's a small fraction of what we do that gives us money, but everything else that creates the traction, creates the visibility, creates the integrity, creates this and that. And corporations, when Delta is doing its Lion Lager, we know we get a contract from Delta. Or when the European Film Festival is doing its festival, we literally speak to every ambassador. We document the festival, we do PR, we do this and that, and we package it and we bring it out, right? And when there is Magamba hosting Shoko Festival, we know that we get a budget from Magamba for us to actually do PR for them. So it's what we have managed to develop as a business model to say, where exactly is the money? Because we tried to actually charge artists to pay for PR, and we realized that they don't have money, they're poor. The few artists that afford are not willing to pay because they've got the numbers already. But in a year, I worked around to make sure that, look, even those that have got the numbers, they would still need an external PR platform. And last year, we managed to do that. The other year, we did the Mustard Seed, we did Freeman last year, we did a couple of other projects and stuff. So if I'm to look at the model that is being used, just in 30 seconds, the model that is being used right now, everybody thinks that they're going to make money on YouTube. If I'm to add up the money that we've got on YouTube as Earground, it doesn't add up to 1,000 for 5 years, right? Facebook, we actually even not monetized. So we don't get money from streaming. We don't get money from, our money comes from corporations, from NGOs, from companies, from creatives, from different initiatives. And it's not just posting an advert. At times it's curating content, it's developing, understanding, okay, if it's visual art, if it's this and that. So I think you have to find your own niche. And for us, that niche alone gives us enough to sustain, to set up a space, to have a team, to do this and that. It's not enough, but we're slowly growing. But it gave me a good reason to say, look, what I was getting from my job here in Germany doesn't, reach this level. So my income comes from Zimbabwe. When I have to fly back to Zimbabwe or travel, the money comes from Zim, right? Because of how we have. And so there's stuff that we always will let pass. If something is trending and it's negative, it's whatever. The stuff that we would not even touch. Why? Because we are very conscious of what's our market. And I think this is what a lot of the media platforms need to think. Who's our market? What's our product? Who's listening? What's our pricing? Like the four the P's, the marketing matrix. That's what people have to think about. It's not random. It's like, you're trending and then we get money. Like right now, people are fighting over copyrights. If you check how much money, what are the dynamics, do they do split, this and that. So people are missing the business side of things. So I think to really think through the product, the place, the pricing, and lastly, if you check a lot of the content we're creating in Zim, if you're not at least a showrunner person or understanding these micro conversations or micro whatever issues in them, you may not be able to get the context. Be it a skit, be it even an interview, be it whatever. A lot of it you get lost in space. But I can actually watch an interview on a Kenyan radio station. I can actually watch content from Uganda and find it interesting. They put subtitles, which helps them. They make their content not just very local. Even the text, listening to text from Davido's song, he is not talking about isusu dara mabatiri tikumbare topedzera vanhu say, right? He's talking about his very Nigerian story, but he gives a very intentional, international context, wordplay, and so forth. So I think our product is largely the issue. People in South Africa, they will not consume much from Zimbabwe, but we consume from South Africa because of the language and so forth. But Podcast Matthew, even if they bring a guest that we don't even know, we'll still find that interesting. But our average influencer, our average skit makers, our average whatever, you listen to the stuff, you're like, okay, where exactly is the joke? This is why I feel it has also conditioned the community, the consumers in Zimbabwe, to mediocre in terms of what they appreciate. So anyone who does something intelligent, something good, if you put a stand-up comedian there, you may not get much. Kandor does amazing stuff, but people may not easily connect, right? But somebody who does, very times very lame jokes and stuff, they will find a bigger audience. So this is why you'd find for platforms like Nama, they've got a category for skits this year, but they don't have something for stand-up comedy. So it's how we're curating our product, where we're taking our direction and what we think is important.
All right. I think you touched on the two hot topics of the day. I think let's start with the first one. We've got Charambas versus Zimdanso. Then we've got Zimdanso versus itself with Kenako and Winky D. We've got Gangster Made It calling out Saint Flo.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on. From your perspective, from your side, what do you think is behind all this?
I think it's a knowledge gap. We've got a big knowledge gap in terms of us just understanding how things work, and having that knowledge gap, we then didn't have the appetite to actually have these conversations and talk about stuff that matter, important stuff in our own spaces and stuff. So that sort of discrepancy is what has led us to here. If you see a big artist like Winky D getting a copyright strike, that raises a red flag at so many levels, right? If you see artists still struggling with like, hey, you uploaded my song, you took my beat, this and that, or I'm not getting anything from this, it means people are not even doing split sheets. And then if you see artists like Sekalas coming in and say, these new things to do with contracts and stuff, it's foreign, we should continue doing what we're doing, one love in the industry. Is this one love that has created this mess where people thought they were doing each other a favor by getting on a collabo without doing split sheets or an agreement, right? Mm-hmm. It's artists not realizing that the most important thing to your creation is the intellectual property. And a basic understanding of such is very important at all levels. And it's a subject that should be taught in primary school, should be taught in secondary school, should be taught for every other program. Be it people are doing accounting, doing whatever, people should actually be having a subject that touches on IP, So I feel it's an awakening. We're getting somewhere. It just speaks about our current situation, but all of a sudden, Charamba was being trolled by people saying, "Oh, he's trying to, he's jealous about Jacek now." Then people realize that he's actually right, and there's a bigger issue with copyrights in the country, from film, theater, you name it. People need to actually have this conversation. So I would say for Zim Danso, right now, like I've said it on record, one of the biggest distributors of Zim Danso music. It's a Nigerian distributor, and who managed to get the bigger part of the catalog because people didn't really think through. So they do not have access to the dashboard for their DSPs. And it's a very, very worrisome situation because people are still not taking this issue seriously.
Yeah, I think sorry, you just triggered me by mentioning that label. One day we'll talk about them, but today is not the day.
Cool.
I think it was also just an issue of access to information. I think one of the things that also disadvantaged us is at the time globally, music particularly was switching to streaming and digital platforms. We were somewhat closed off. Distributors, I remember DistroKid and I think CD Baby, up until I need to confirm the dates, but they didn't allow you to upload from Zimbabwe. You couldn't get PayPal from Zimbabwe, so you couldn't even receive payments.
True.
If you did want to receive payments, you then have to get a Payoneer card, find a third party, etc. There were a lot of headaches in figuring out how to work around these systems. So it's not, I don't think artists are all the way at fault, but I do think they obviously do at fault because it's their IP. The other thing that you'd mentioned, which I want to go back to, I'd forgotten to respond to, you're talking about Zim Danso. I think in as much as Zimbabwe is a broken market, when Zim leads, or rather when the consumer base leads, brands follow. So the reason why Zim Dancehall is still getting pride of place on radio and all these places is Zim Dancehall still sells tickets. If if Freeman did his album launch and Freeman has now graduated from dancehall to damn near pop act, Freeman's ticket launches as some of the most expensive tickets were $150. He sold out on every tier. Did you see that setup?
Sure, that was massive.
From his every year without fail, Winky D. You can set your clock to it. I'm doing HICC New Year's Eve, and everyone knows I'm not going anywhere near Rotten Row because traffic is going to be a nightmare. Winky D will fill up that HICC without a shadow of a doubt. Natty O, even though he's starting to do more pop stuff, when Natty O was part of that, the Three Kings lineup, shut it down. Plus his own solo shows, shut it down. He's doing incredible numbers. Zim hip hop acts. Which Zim hip hop act is shutting it down? I think now we're starting to get there. I'm gonna give Holy and Vaults another 3 to 6 months to tighten up their live act because they simply aren't there yet. And it's the same growing pain. Some of these Zim Dancehall, like I remember going to Zim Dancehall shows a decade ago, and they were horrible, like Shinso and Killer.
True.
I was heartbroken, but they needed time to figure out how to put their sets together. So they needed repeated bookings, and they simply haven't had that luxury. So as it stands, like right now, all the guys that we're talking about, even within that, how many of them can do a 60 to 90 minute set? Like, I was seeing Saint Flo, like no aspersions against Saint Flo. That's my boy. I actually bumped into him a couple of days ago. But when he came out and he said, "Yo, my booking fee is $6,000," the first thing is like, okay.
What are people paying for?
No, not only what are people paying for. Who is paying that? Let's run the numbers because this is my day. This is my bread and butter. So I can immediately like, blast $6,000 to go where? Which venue is booking you for $6,000? And Saga, maybe you're doing City Sports. Are you doing Tafara Stadium? Are you doing Alex Sports Club? Are you doing HICC? Okay, if you get booked at any of those things, which band are you coming out with? So maybe you might come out with Shabak. Bet. How many songs do you have to fill up a 60-minute set that will command that $6,000? Because in Zimbabwe, $6,000 is A-lister booking fees.
Yeah.
So 6 songs are going to fill up a 60-minute set? You're not doing 90 minutes. What's the song that you're gonna perform is gonna tear the roof off that people are coming to see you for, right? Okay, damn, Bob, Silence Bawende, Bob, but that's last year's heat. Well, the year before last now, actually.
I feel it.
So that's the other thing is, but no. Also now, it's a gift and a curse. That's a sad thing. Now, let's think about it. If we're saying 6,000 is A-list money, and someone is on a podcast bragging about getting 6,000 a show, to me, I'm saddened by that. And I don't think people are fleshing this out. Like $6,000. Okay, let's do the numbers. In a busy weekend, how many 60-minute shows do you think any artist, doesn't even have to be Saint Flo, just any artist at the peak, Freeman, Winky, Ja, anyone, in a weekend, how many shows do you think they're doing? Like where they're getting maximum revenue?
I think a maximum would be like 3 gigs. But I know most do like 1 gig a week or 2 gigs. At their peak, maybe 3 gigs. JP at times it stretches like 4 gigs and stuff.
Exactly. So if you do that, you're doing 18,000 a weekend. 18,000. Your manager's taking 20% off top. Bam. So that's 1.8. Well, no, 3.6 actually. So 3.6 down already. Manager. Band. If you're doing Shabak is if you're doing a 6-piece or the 8-piece, how much are you paying Spirit and Co for that? They're probably taking maybe 20 to 30%. So let's say you're now down 40%. So let's say you're taking half. So of that 18,000, you've now got 9,000 in show revenue. But for that 9,000, you still got to figure out what to do about your tour van, what to do about your wardrobe, your rehearsal space, your equipment, your DJ, or rather, if you don't have a DJ with the band, that needs to be paid off. You then need to figure out how many of these resources you're allocating to brand building, etc. Guys, we need to be honest with each other, bruh.
True. I think there's no honesty in this. And I mean, when there isn't that honesty, we're too scared and we have too many sacred pieces in the industry to the extent that nobody can actually do a well thought out critique or review of such, right? And do it in such a way that they're not called a hater. So it's difficult. Like I'll tell you, for instance, when the whole Winky D copyright issue happened, the moment I opened my mouth, starting to have the conversation about that, and I realized that the legion of his fans were already, after me. So we end up not talking about critical things because we're too scared to touch certain people. We're too scared we're not ready for decent conversation. You start something, somebody can just drop an insult and stuff. So such things can go away unchallenged. But reality then will prove you otherwise, that look, you're stretching, you're lying there.
All right. So before we skip over, tell us, what were you trying? What's your take on the Winky D situation? Don't worry, none of his fans listen to this podcast. I'm telling you right now, none of them.
I think, you know what, I've also said it on numerous occasions that Winky D is amazing. He's super amazing an artist, and he's one artist that I love dearly. Like I listen to his music religiously, but I feel he has outgrown his management, right? Outgrown his management to an extent where they a bit out of sync with what's happening with some of the issues. And an issue like that one, which almost took down his YouTube account, he received a 3rd strike, is an issue that points to a failure by management to resolve something before it gets to that level. But even if you look at just the way his digital platforms are managed in terms of social media and stuff, and what he could have done. Right now, I was looking at my Madam Boss. She's got 1.6 million followers on Facebook, and Winky D is still like around 700,000 and stuff, less than 1 million. Freeman has more than 1 million. And if you look at these dynamics and the love that the artist has got locally, he has done everything that we can think of. He has won every award. There's nothing for Winky to prove in Zimbabwe. And that creates an opportunity for him to actually prove and do something outside. And they know him. They speak about him. Every Jamaican I've spoken to, from Morgan Heritage to Tanto Mentro Devante, to so many other, reggae artists, they know and they speak about Winky D when they mention Zimbabwe. And I'm like, with all of that leverage, why are you failing to capitalize on it? To build a strong social capital that is quantifiable, not fans that are just there to be loud, but to literally say, we've got these numbers. If we've got such numbers, why are you not thinking of even filling up a national sports stadium? He could do that, right? Easily do it, because we see other artists where we're trying to compete with or relate with, they're actually doing that. Your Stone Boys, your Pato Ranking and so forth. And some of these guys started music when Winky D was already a superstar, So I feel that issue is a drop. It's sort of like a tip of an iceberg for things that Rasta could actually do differently. Remember, there was an impersonator who created an account, a fake account, and he collected money on behalf of Winky D, and he was arrested 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And it only came to light when this guy accepted a car from a well-wisher, on behalf of Winky D. And for things to get to that level, where you've got social accounts that are not official accounts, that are actually more up to date, that are updating, that are doing this and that, they just need to get a digital someone who does their thing, or to hire more people onto the team and so forth. But I understand also, it needs to keep certain things private. But my biggest fear, sorry to digress, my biggest fear with Winky is that now that he has got these challenges with the political messaging in his music, he's not going to have as many shows as possibly you would be having locally. And you could easily be then doing festivals and other things outside of the country. Because I look at Mafumo, I look at other artists that got into a space where then there was a struggle with their expression versus, airplay and other things.
Mm-hmm. The Winky topic is obviously a tough one. I think... Yeah, the last time I spoke of it, I think actually, you called me after it actually, yeah. And these are issues that have been long-standing. I'm not going to speak too much of it because Banda, like him and I had a few conversations last year about a couple of things. So I don't want to cast aspersions, but I do think that it's heartbreaking. But I think this year, if Winky doesn't figure it out, I don't think he's gonna expand beyond Zimbabwe. And my biggest frustration has always been like, I was listening to Winky D before Pat Ranking was making music. I was listening to Winky D before Stoneboy. I was listening to Winky D before what's his name? Red Sun. There's the other dancehall artist from Ghana. These guys. Shatawale, exactly. And Winky has done that. I've seen Winky perform and scared the bejesus out of TOK. I've seen Winky perform and Beanie Man shout him out on the mic. I've seen Winky perform and Elephant Man shook.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, these stories are just going to stay with us. It's like folklore, you know what I mean? The world doesn't get to see it because, sadly, because of everything that happened and everything that's been happening, there has been a lot of bullshit. Like, while you're talking, I was just thinking about it. I was like, but for sure, Wingy launched an album January 1st. There's nothing on DSP. Still, nothing. I remember last year, I won't get into the details, but a platform contacted me trying to get hold of Winky stuff. And they were trying to give him prominent placement because I'd also been like, Shaq, guys, can you please help out with some acts? They were like, bet, we got you. And it took me a long time to get that stuff. And it's the small things that lead to a big difference. And for an issue with Kenako. Kenako shut down 7 years ago.
Yes.
Seven. Like, why are you still having guns with the doctor from back then? You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
And it's a sad state of affairs, but I think it's unfortunate that this is what it's come to. And I also I'm saddened by the fact that there's a lack of education on both fronts. I can understand hitting the nuclear button, which is takedown. But if you have a legitimate claim to whatever intellectual property, right? It's an asset. That asset is out there generating revenue. The last thing I'd do, unless I just want to spite you, is stop my revenue generating asset from generating revenue.
True.
So I'd raise concerns. I'd strictly do behind the scenes. What I can just do, because at DMCA, you do not need a lawyer to do a DMCA takedown notice. What you literally need to do is go to YouTube and say, this is my property. It has been taken down. And out of an abundance of caution, and because YouTube does not have humans working there, they will take it down. Then you have to appeal to get your stuff back up. There's a reason why these songs are taken down off YouTube, but they're still available on DSPs. You can still find them on Apple and Spotify because the process is different. Because I don't believe, even within the takedown notices, people have the relevant paperwork to justify their case. Because this issue can easily just be resolved by going to Samro, going to Capasso, going to Zimura, saying, hey guys, yo, that song that's on YouTube, I'm the owner. Here's my documentation. Please, can you send me the statements and reports? Let me get my money. I don't need all this front-facing stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, true.
I'll literally just go to, yo, Capasso, here's the documentation, here's my spreadsheet, here's the agreement, etc, etc. I'm the legal owner of this. You guys can arbitrate, get whatever needs to be done. They'll come back. I bet we've decided the money's coming to you. Bo. Like, it's, and I think in as much as, I think it's a necessary first step, but it's not a strategically sound step. A takedown notice does not solve your problems. It actually makes
you're right there.
All it does is it's going to annoy the person you're taking the song down on. Now, the other thing, artists, producers, labels, etc., you need to realize is if you start taking down people's music, if I'm known, like if I, Phil Chad, am known for like, yo, whenever you piss off Phil, you don't do right by Phil, he's going to take down your song. And let's say I'm even right in doing that. If I come to you and like, yo, Plot, let's work on a song together. How keen are you going to be able to work with me?
Not at all.
And
not at all. I mean, you create bad reputation.
And that's the issue a lot of these guys have. I mean, I was even looking at the other thing, which is a bit of a conflation, but I think it links to the warped views we have in this market. I was seeing a post by someone, and they were comparing, I think it was Volt's, JT's, Mkoma Brian video views to Maglera Doughboy's new video views. And they were like, yo, Volt's JT is doing more numbers, so clearly the market is bigger. I was like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. It's just that the consumption patterns of Zimbabwean hip-hop fans skews heavily towards YouTube because that's where the majority of people get their content. But how much revenue is being generated from this? There's so much revenue that's being lost. Like, one day when and I can speak on it, when I tell you the numbers that I see about uncollected revenues from Zimbabwean acts, it's staggering. People are literally leaving houses uncollected and they are carrying on with their lives unknown, like literally. And it's heartbreaking, but I detract. You know what? So I think let's put a bow on the copyright issue. So, like, in your estimation of the stories that have been in the news recently, what do you think is the main cause and what is the solution? And
I think that the main cause is it's failure to understand how these copyrights work. I mean, it's a big topic that I think even some of the best producers and people that have been in the industry may not easily understand overnight. And now, because of the digital platforms, there are a lot of changes that are happening to sampling and other things and so forth. But I think there's need for continuous education. People need to continuously learn attend workshops, learn, research online, find out. And then also to start developing systems, because as long as we don't have an ecosystem, a structured system where people say, look, these are the standards that we work with. I went to Zambia with Felinandi last year to record a song with Neo Slayer, one of the artists there was doing so well. And we worked with 2 producers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when the 2 producers, before they started working, we'd agreed on how much money they needed to be paid and stuff. These guys then said, okay, we're going to have this contract. They had a contract with them. And they said, we're going to get this percentage. This is from our creative process, our production. This percentage of royalties will be coming to us. So let's agree on that before we start recording. And I thought to myself, but we have paid, right? But I was like, yeah, they're doing things professional. But in Zim, that can be easily turned off. People would like, we're not going to work with you. I just don't put that in my paper, right? So I think us adapting and adjusting, we're early adopters to a lot of things. So this conversation should mutate into a solution where people have got an interest in knowing the status of their intellectual property and being able to agree and being very clear about the value that they bring. If they're backing vocalists, they're playing an instrument, they're doing this and that they can actually collect money through passive means on so many other projects that they would have put online. So knowledge at all levels and people sharing that knowledge and doing away with ignorance, because a lot of the ignorance, that's what has been preferred by a lot of artists, like, we're just doing the way we're doing things. This is Zimbabwe, even when people started getting access to MasterCards and Visa cards, which are now easy with EcoCash, you can actually get a MasterCard, a lot of banks, you can get a MasterCard, you can open a YouTube account and do this and that, right? And monetize. It's simple knowledge like that to just say, look, if you've got an EcoCash, you've got an Eco number, you have access to a MasterCard and you can simply do this and that. If people adjust and everybody starts creating better standards, I think it's going to force more people to say we're going to do business differently, because this way of doing business is not going to take us anywhere far. But at the same time, it's going to create conflicts. But we're also not going to find easy collaboration or interaction with the outside world, because there things are done according to these standards. I'll tell you, for instance, I was creating a lot of mediocre content, when I started, because I didn't know how to edit videos. I didn't know how to, the sound was bad and so forth. But now we have had to make deliberate steps to say, look, let's try to improve the sound. Let's try to improve the picture. Let's try to improve this and that, right? We're not there, but the intentional and deliberate steps to actually say, we're going to do things this way. Let's improve. Let's do things like this. We help everybody. People will know, okay, you have to register with Zimura, right? And Zimura will know we have to try and engage with artists and make them see that they have to register with us and this is how they benefit and so forth.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's about the thing that I'm struggling with, and I'm sure you're struggling with as well, is like the bridge between theoretical and practical. Because until artists start actually seeing the benefit of doing this, they're still gonna take these shortcuts. And sadly, it's a global phenomenon. Even in the most developed markets, there's the music industry is designed to be complicated and confusing. So I do have a bit of understanding for artists, because it's convoluted. It's extremely convoluted. But yeah, hopefully guys can solve that. But moving on from that to a lighter topic, some chill, some easy. Let's talk about the Namas. I don't know, Plot. I'm assuming since you were in Germany, you were not there.
I wasn't there, but I was nominated, so I'm an interested party.
So, as someone who was nominated, how did you see? Well, did you watch? Was there a live stream this year?
There was no live stream. It was on ZTN, was broadcasting on DSTV, so there was nothing online.
Oh, you know what? Actually, to see when is it airing, I'll see if I can try and record it. I was traveling over the weekend, but let's. Do you want to run through the winners, or do you want to go through the controversial stuff first?
I think the winners, and then
All right.
also cuts and connects to the controversial parts. There are some winners that I feel, were more deserving. The likes of Felinandi, we saw what she did in terms of music over the past year, and the past 2 years, very consistent work and stuff. And then there was the outstanding female musician. And then if you look at the outstanding newcomer, Kina the Music, brilliant artist. I had to discover him after the NAMA Awards, and then outstanding male musician, Enzo Aisha, worked hard. Yeah, he did well. I think on the...
How many singles did he drop this past year?
You saying?
How many singles did Enzo drop this last year?
Singles?
What projects? Because I don't think he dropped a project.
He dropped Arorwa. He dropped a couple of projects, I think about maybe 6 or so. But I would have given it to Saint Flo. And I appreciate, I love saying, but Saint Flo, it was not just the music, but also just the narrative that surrounds him. He's a guy who came off drugs, went to rehab, came back, took over the scene and so forth. And I think that would have gone far in terms of just selling the impact. And even the music itself was doing more. It was on 1 by 1, which was one of the biggest record on different radio stations. And I would say was the biggest song last year, right? And then, we go to other art forms. I'm more interested in dance. So when you look at dance, I've not seen dance production because I've worked in dance the longest. I've done dance projects longer than anything else that I've done creative-wise. I've not seen quality productions or like a proper production being made from dance that is taught, that is done well, right, over the years. What we've seen are TikTok videos, small videos and so forth, music videos and so on. So the quality of dance has really gone down. But what put my attention is, I think the most awarded dancer in the country who has got 7 awards. Not to take anything away from him. He's brilliant, he's amazing. Every year he's getting to win. And this guy is also choreographing for NAMA. He works for JCMC, when they're doing the NAMA Awards. And he's winning either choreographer, he's winning either best dancer for the year. And it raises, there are a lot of the people that are winning NAMA dance, there are people that are working mainly with JCMC, which are the producers of NAMA.
So in this instance, you're talking about Sean Mambwere.
Yeah, Sean Mambwere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amazing dancer, brilliant. One of the dancers that I worked with for years, since 2009 and so forth. But I feel when you get to a point where you've won 7 awards, it should also translate to the work that you've done, and not just locally. That raises a red flag, especially when dance is so diverse as well. It's not only hip hop dance, like so many dance types, traditional, contemporary, and so forth, right? And we've got dancers that are actually touring. The Making of Men is touring, which is an international production produced by Africara and Africalia and so forth. So such dynamics. And then when you move to, some of the categories, for example, best radio journalist. And then you ask, is everybody a journalist or some are just presenters? So they may need to rename and rework some of these categories. And then you find categories that had like only 2 nominees. And then, for poetry, I think that some very good work there. The poets that were awarded, did in like so much work. Media-wise, this is where I was nominated. I had my indifferent feelings there, but because I thought I was going to win. And then when it comes to music, and this is where it created, before music, if you look at screen TV shows, other things, and then the quality of the content is compared from one to the other, it leaves you wanting to say, okay, where exactly are we? At this level, are we going to be able to make some productions that make it on Netflix, like after Cook Off and China, which was produced in South Africa and so forth, right? And then outstanding diaspora is fine. There's a musician, there's a dancer, there's an actor, there's a visual artist there. How do you compare these artists? They're doing different art forms, And Nama had announced that they are doing away with the media awards and only to resurface when they were announcing the nominees, right? And the most controversial one that has been picked has been the video, outstanding video. Music video.
Mm-hmm.
And the video that won by Tata Zinza and produced by Jonathan Samkang is still yet to be released into the public domain.
But they dropped a snippet. A snippet was dropped on Sunday. So what do you mean?
It's a snippet, and they can't show us the whole video. They can't tell us what is being shown. The audio still sits at 1,000 something on YouTube. And I saw the deputy director, the acting director today, at pains at the FM, trying to explain that apparently it was Jonathan who submitted, it was not Tato Zinza, and then the video is said to have been shown at this festival. Mention the festivals. It was shown at ABC festivals. And if it's a video of the year, it means there's a component, apart from quality and production or whatever, it should be in the public domain. There should also be a core relationship with how that video engaged with the masses and so forth. So this is not the first time that it has happened, right? In 2011, Wona Mwana Wako, a drama production, won the best outstanding TV drama production. Yet this drama had actually been turned down by ZBC. It had been turned down by ZBC for being poor, and it had been turned. It didn't even play anyway. It had not been shown. And it's not the first time. There are so many anomalies that we can actually point through and through. And I don't know why Nama doesn't seem to learn, doesn't want to learn, doesn't want to change. The fact that they cannot tell us who are the adjudicators. They cannot tell us if you are adjudicators for such a platform, at some point there should be some pride in saying, I was part of this, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel this was the lowest Nama ever in history, and it's something that they need to sit down and reflect and fix. Otherwise, we have seen the reduction in terms of big stars participating in attending the Namas. Winky D, him and his manager were not even there, right? Artists like Holy 10, we saw what they did. They walk away with nothing. Saint Flo, 3 nominees. With all the work that is done, he doesn't get anything. Bebrakura Rorwa released 5 weeks before the awards nominations closed to become Song of the Year. And so for me, those are some of the gray areas that I feel they need to fix to make the awards. And even if you look at the quality of production, the production in Harare and the production in Bulawayo, and all these complaints that are being brought in by people to say, look, you buzzed in a lot of people from Harare, we didn't get a lot of Bulawayo talent and so forth, and the quality of the red carpet, the bedroom, they could not even straighten it up and make it look nicer. So I feel they have to work.
I think I agree with you to agree, but I think also to be fair to the numbers and to shoot them. But sadly, I was trying to look up their rules. Their website is down. So because I wanted to find just to clarify if the works had to be in the public domain. But then like with the music category, with music, because you have so few awards, I think in total it's 8 music awards on the night, correct? Like you're gonna struggle to fit everyone in. I think the Enzo nomination raises some eyebrows, but if you know how things are moving, you know how things operate, you'll understand why. We don't need to get into the specifics of that on this podcast, but it makes sense. Yeah. I think the big thing was, I think the Tashle when Zinza win in this day and age was just nonsensical, especially for a song. It's not like the song was caught like mid-review. This song dropped in the middle of last year. Like the project dropped in the middle of last year. So I I genuinely don't get nor to understand that, but I also need to I think in the interest of fairness, because also in our Patreon group, people were talking about it, is because of the cost. We don't know what the budget that Jacaranda are working with the National Arts Council, but if you are planning on doing an event in Bulawayo, for example, but all your infrastructure is in Harare, your rehearsal space, your choreographer, your team, etc., it just makes sense to have them work in Harare and then bus to Bulawayo. The alternative, having people travel to Bulawayo to work with dancers in Bulawayo, and then now you start the process from scratch. Now you got to rehearse these dancers, train these dancers. Hopefully they get it within a couple of weeks. The costs become prohibitive because that's travel, that's accommodation for weeks on end. There's only so much you can do, and it goes back to what was at the beginning of this conversation. The economics of this industry aren't making sense. Like, in as much as this is a subsidized event and a subsidized system, like, I don't know how far things can grow when people are like, the expenses just are making sense for people, you know. So it's a tough one all around. All right, but yeah, I think to be honest, I think Saint Flo was robbed. I think, if I'm being honest, depending on whatever gauge these guys used, Chire Merera and One by One were way bigger songs, way bigger songs. Enzo dropped singles this past year. I think Saint Flo had such a massive 2022 that it carried over to 2023. That he definitely does. I think he had a good, solid shot for that. I'm not gonna push up against that. I think the other funny or the interesting thing here is we were talking about events earlier. Promoter of the year was Chipas. Would dancehall, not hip hop.
Yeah, true.
But it's an interesting dynamic all around. But I don't know. So I think the other backstory for us on the podcast is, normally we'd obviously attend. This year being Bulawayo, we just never got invited. I just never got invited, which was an interesting thing. So I was just like, but anyway, I'm busy that weekend, plus the expenses. Dan was supposed to have gone, but then Dan had a flight. And then during the week, I had to have a meeting at the National Arts Council. And then only then and there, when I was at the meeting, did they offer me tickets. But I was like, okay, guys, this is Bulawayo. It's not like I'm going to HICC.
Yeah, true.
You can't let me know a day before and be like, yo, come through. I'm like, guys, it's too late. And I think that also played a part in it. I don't know how many celebs or what the uptake is for celebs to attend, because that's another thing that people need to consider. When you are doing an award show out of town, out of city, out of country, it's on the organizers to ensure that the A-list acts attend. Now, do we know for sure that everyone that attended had their travel and accommodation subsidized? They might have had accommodation subsidized, but was their travel subsidized? That's a big question. True. Does the National Arts Council have enough money to charter a whole fast jet flight to get people from Harare to Bulawayo? Or are they putting someone on a bus? And if I'm an A-list act and you're telling me to take a bus, it's not aircon, guys, it's fine. I'll just stay in Harare and make my money, bruh.
Yeah, yeah, true.
So, I mean, this is now. Let's now move on from the depressing stuff. Let's talk about the positives. Which artists right now? Like, give me one artist that's come up on the scene that you're feeling right now. Who are you vibing with right now?
There's a lady called Mandy Awe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's doing amazing. She's quite promising, and I like what's his name? It's called Precosh. Yeah, Case Precosh is dope. K Flow is doing well, and Bekiwe Dube, brilliant artist, in Blawayo, and Mystery in Mutare is really, really dope an artist. And King Musafa from Glendale, I would say is one of the best reggae artists that we've got. Yeah, so these are the artists that I've been feeling of late, and that I think you've got something that's quite promising if they get the right kind of management and support.
All right, dope. I think we'll check out man. So is that MandyAhwee?
Yes. Mandy Awe.
So we'll check out one. I'll check out one of the joints after this. That's dope. You know, cool. Let's see. We're supposed to have someone else join our call, but they are now ignoring. Let me just try to give them a call because they were actually on ground at the numbers. I wanted to ask them some probing questions.
Cool.
Oh, there we go.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right. This is, Sha, you're making us beg for this information. Like we are desperados.
Don't just beg you for any information now, man. What's happening?
Nothing much, Sam. I'm just chilling here with my new podcast co-host, Plot. We've decided to diversify.
Is he your new co-host?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Danny's just busy? Which one is it?
Now he's been replaced. We had some contractual disagreements.
He's a plan B.
Plot,
you're a plan B, okay?
Hey, what's up, Miss Red? I had to dissolve ear ground, so I'm now, one of the broke Twimbos.
Well done. At least you know where you're at in life. You're a broke Twimbo. It's okay.
So, Miss Red, we saw some images and some videos of you scantily clad in Bulawayo.
What does scantily clad mean? What kind of English is that? Please explain to me.
Salacious.
What's salacious?
Very un-African. Just very un-African.
Oh, Zamu PF.
Zigam. Sorry. But so the NAMA awards were over this weekend, and we saw that you were in attendance. I want to just get a temperature check from you. After being in attendance, and you've attended many awards before, how did these compare to the previous ones? And in general, how were they?
I like how you say I was in attendance. I think that's what it is. I surely was just in attendance. There was no razzle dazzle, if I'm to be very honest. And the most disappointing part is because I know what Bulawayo is capable of. I don't know the back end story or what was happening in the background, but when I actually booked my flights and I was getting ready to go, in my head I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be the biggest thing in Zimbabwe for 2024 because I've seen how they do some of their events. So maybe I was very disappointed from that point of view because maybe I had high expectations, but there's nothing really to go on about. To be quite honest with you, the red carpet it left a lot to be desired. And I like to be constructive with my criticism. I don't like to just say, and then we leave it there. I think there's so much that can be done. And for me, because the last 2 years had been so great in terms of, looking forward with, okay, fine, they've done better this year. And then the year after they did it well. And then this year they just went so down. I just wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't expecting it. And in terms of the adjudication of the awards, the I mean, it's two different things altogether. Too many speeches, and I'd just like to just say this, and I've been saying this even on radio. I just believe we need to have a masterclass for our public officials or office holders. If you're going for an event ceremony, ain't nobody got time to be listening to your 30-minute speech. We don't care. At this point, you want to know who's winning what. We want to see Baba Harare on stage. We want to see MJ sing. Kelvin Mangena. That's what I was genuinely excited about. But we had like 3 or 4 back-to-back speeches, and I'm like, yo, man, we don't care. At this point, it was just so unfortunate that people were just hyped about Baba Harare. I think he kicked it. I think Baba Harare just performed, and then there was like back to back speeches, and yeah, it was painful. It was painful.
So all in all, you really had a good time. Sounds like it.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. No, I thoroughly always enjoy my time in Bulawayo, and I'll never take anything away from them. I still believe that they are the cultural capital capital for arts and culture in Zimbabwe. But, I just don't think Nama did justice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they can make it better. I don't know if the people who organized changed. I don't know what happened in the background. But it was just not. It was probably one of the worst ones.
Yeah.
I shared the same sentiment too. I just looked at the backdrop at the red carpet, and I thought to myself, could somebody not straighten that up and just make it look nicer and tidier? And I didn't
It was
think
just
that
a simple thing. It wasn't even complicated, eh? The backdrop just needed to be straightened. I don't know. I really don't know why we're still dealing with such basic things. I mean, it's a national event and it's done by the National Arts Council of Zimbabwe. It's not Phil Chad, Plot, and Miss Red getting together and saying, guys, getting with them awards. No. These guys are from the National Arts Council.
Wait, what?
So,
What? Wait, what? Just wait. You
no, I'm saying, but it's not just like That's what I'm saying. But we could pull something off that's astronomical. But I also maybe they have background issues that we don't know about and we're not privy to. So we can only say so much. But in terms of if we're just sticking to the awards, what I experienced, it really could have been 100 times better.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd have to agree. Well, granted, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I think I touched on it before, and I was just like pre-event. As someone who's I would say an active member of the community, as someone who's hosted your event before, like normally number phone around, feel that ticket, are you coming through GGG? This year it was crickets. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not wanted anymore.
But again, that's what I was saying. There's been change of hands in terms of management or the people that I don't know what happened. But if I'm not mistaken, I know the former head of National Arts Council now moved and is now the permanent secretary. There's a lot of acting people inside there. So maybe that's also just, evident with the way things were organized. There has been a change of hands. So certain things may not have gone the way it would have happened last year because of that change of hands.
I was going to say, is Napster still part of Jacaranda? Because I think, is he now not running, what's called, is it Orchard? Dang it.
He's got his own company.
No, it's a Ginger Apple group, if I'm not mistaken. That's the name of it.
So, but
I mean, he was always doing that. Nama was a secondary thing. He was doing it under KCMC, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he had stepped away from it. And then I think maybe last minute he was called in and please, I don't have confirmed answers to this, but this is what I just heard in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I also
go on and say, no, it's just something that I heard. Just the rumor mill was saying. But I thoroughly believe that Napoleon knows how to do beautiful events. So maybe his touch wasn't there 100% throughout this, and maybe this is why it happened this way.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So, are we looking forward to, in fact, before we even get there, so Sam, you're in attendance, you're in the crowd. Was there one award that when it was handed out that the crowd was like, what?
It was a lot. It was a lot. And I don't know. I don't want to keep on, because I've got a lot to say, but I still have to work in this industry. So, I don't want to be blackballed.
No one listens to this podcast. No one listens to this podcast, please.
Trust me.
No one listens to this podcast.
Especially right. No, it's a big podcast. Don't underestimate your reach.
Oh, thanks, Sam. Oh, I so sweet. But okay, I don't know. Like I'm so deflated by your comments. I thought it was an exaggeration, and now I'm hearing from someone who was there. I'm like, oh Lord.
No, it really wasn't. But I mean, it's important to celebrate each other, to celebrate the things that we're doing, because we really have very little in terms of my award ceremony in Zimbabwe. So when we can, we do. But I hope next year maybe there'll be more sponsors. Maybe that's what they needed. Maybe they needed more money. Maybe they needed more time. Maybe I don't know. But something was with me like it.
All right. Well, at least we've heard it from the ground. Namas were a roaring success. Thanks to...
Yeah, they really were. Outstanding.
No, thanks so much. We know you're busy and I disturbed you, so we appreciate it. But we do Team Jamembe, we stick together.
No, always and forever. And Plot, please, can you get just make sure you send someone a bill.
Hey, we will send.
Thanks a lot for the heads up. Thanks a lot for that.
Oh, okay, it boy. Talk about it. Don't
So
worry.
you're still the biggest podcast, so still.
There you go. All right, later.
Bye.
Thanks, awesome.
All right, so there we go. That was Sam Misread Musa with her recap of the numbers, and it was indicting to say the least. You know what? I think we need to wash away the stench of all this negativity. Let me play Mandy. We usually play what songs we're gonna play. Which song from Mandy Hour should I play, Plot?
There's one called Ndiriku, just say Tisha Shine and Tisha. I know the song, but not the title. But
right, when you remember, just shoot me a link. We'll add it to the end of the show, and then Crims, don't forget to put the show notes in there. And then thank you so much for joining us, Plum. We really appreciate it, especially on short notice. But thanks for your insights. Always a pleasure. And let our listeners know where they can get a hold of you and where they can find your musings.
Thanks a lot. You can get hold of me, Plot Mhako, across all social media platforms. And my email address is plot@amplifier.com. And yeah, I'm literally a social animal. So you find me online. If you don't find me in 24 hours or in 5 hours, make a police report.
I applaud the original online celeb. Thanks so much for joining us. And once again, this is another episode of Two Broke Twimbos. Next week, Dan will be back, but I might be away, so we'll see. But I think I'll be recording remotely. But once again, please don't forget to support the podcast. Head on over to our website, twobrokedtwimbos.com. Please sign up for our newsletter and please join our Patreon. Shout out to all the patrons that have supported us and continue to support us. We see you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we'll be back later this week with maybe another episode once Dan is back online. But for now, we out. Thank you so much, Plot. And we'll play out with the song from Mandy Awe. When he catches it, we'll see you next. Aha!